And welcome back. This is After the Show. I've got my buddy Megan on. Megan, this was great. We just recorded the episode of The Healing Power of Forgiveness. I have to say, you were wonderful. You were
Ah,
really good. I loved it. I got a lot out of it. Thank you.
I like the format, so it would work well for me. Thank you.
It is a good format, guys.
Right.
It was a great episode. I'd been really wanting to do this episode for quite some time because I'll tell you, Megan, it's just forgiveness is tough sometimes for people in recovery. And I have to tell you personally, and I've shared this on TikTok lives, I've shared this in the Recovered Life community. I struggled with the resentment against, a parent, and it did not turn out like yours. Unfortunately, it did not turn out as great as yours turned out, but I was free of it, and I've experienced what it's like to be free and to actually forgive people and say, well, they did the best they can, even if they didn't do the best they could. Like, it's like, all right, they did what they did, and now I'm going to do what I want to do. Can we talk about the emotions of this? Because it's not as easy as just saying, okay, and
Oh
giving people
God,
a
no.
pass, right? I
And
mean,
and I think the biggest thing that everything happens in increments. We think of recovery as an event, and it's not an event. It's a process. And in the process of it, I'm really lucky and blessed that I've been able to spend more than half of my life without substance because I never could have imagined going without substance before I did. It was like that was the horrible thing about getting sober and clean was that I what was I going to do? That was the only thing that I knew. It did what it did for me, and I could count on it.
yeah,
Kind of, kind of.
it works, dude. You know what?
Yeah.
I hear all this time, all the time, Megan, where people are like, you know what? Drugs and alcohol don't work for me. They never. I go, dude. Well, they work. They work really well until they want to delete you.
Yeah.
I think, getting out of the pain of the here and now, and this is why I wanted to have this episode, because when I heard this story, what happens is I believe that we get so uncomfortable in the here and now. That's how we relapse. The here and now becomes unacceptable to us as alcoholics, right? Even in recovery, if we don't work on these issues, and not having forgiveness and not being able to access forgiveness, I think is one of those things personally that can take you out. I don't know what you feel about it, but it builds up. And even if it doesn't, it makes your life shit.
I've been really fortunate to have gone to a lot of recovery. I've been through a lot of recovery in a lot of different ways, a lot of different venues, uh, and and seen what we go through. I mean, and listened and related to what we go through. The first thing, I was going to a pretty militant group when I first got sober, and they were like, "This is the way that it goes," kind of an idea, and I didn't feel like that, but they had all of the answers. Anywhere you went, they had all of the answers, and it was like, I don't think I want to be around a bunch of people that have all of the answers and it's down pat for them. I think, and it was the great thing about having this guy be my sponsor, and he just became my friend.
Mhm.
Sponsoring, we talk about that, and like I'm not crazy about the word sponsor because it's pretty ego bound, and I don't I don't see the ego having anything to do with sobriety. But the thing that I got to watch with this guy that's guided me for 36 years is his life change, and I got to watch his life change, and I couldn't deny it. And so while I was at that militaristic group at the beginning, somebody said, "Oh yeah, you're going to hear your story. You're going to hear it." And I was like the unique guy who said, "Oh no, nobody's ever going to tell my story here. I'm sorry. I am unique in this," and I was wrong because there was a stewardess. I will tell you how long ago this was. There was a stewardess uh, who talked about her feelings about putting bottles in a bag and putting paper towels in between the bottles so they didn't clink when she took them out and put them in the trash. And it was like, that's not my story, but
Yeah.
I knew what that
The
feeling
thinking
of
behind it. The thinking
I
behind it. Yeah.
understood it completely. And it was like that was the beginning of me being able to relate to other people that wasn't verbatim what my story was going to be. And when I got to that point, I was able to say, "Oh, okay, well, okay, so I'm part of this thing. I
Mhm.
might as well give myself up to this thing, and see how many of us have the same stuff going on." And I found a lot of us feel the same way about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And how do we power through that? How do we get through that stuff? And I was never the guy that was like, well, I could make this better or so and so. I was like, just get me through the day, will you, man? And it was like, so I got sober and I wanted to make things better. I liked when things changed. I wasn't in fear of change like I was before I got sober. That's the biggest.
I love that. I was going to ask you this question because I ask this of a lot of therapists that I have on the show. And I think it's so good. One, I just want to say, like, it's so good that we were talking about this personally about having an inner circle of people. Like, I consider you, I told you when I met you, I was like, you're going to be in my inner circle. Like, the people that I could rely on to call that will tell me the truth, that can give me advice that I know, right? Like, it's so, like you had mentioned that sponsor or no spot, that's not as relevant to me. Having people I can trust that I know that I can count on, and I
Yeah.
and I all know that they're doing the deal is the most important thing to me. But I have a question, because I ask this a therapist sometimes too. I sometimes feel like you were talking about these militant groups, these pat answers, this whole thing that happens a lot of time. It's perpetrated in AA. I find a lot, and in NA, is that people are just doing the best they can. And there are real shit going on in the rooms and in recovery where people have been abused, where clearly people have been victim. They weren't doing the best they can, because that's always a pat line you hear. Well, they did the best with what they could have. Not always, I found. And I
Yeah.
felt that to be disingenuous a lot of times. And for my situation with a couple things in my life, I had to realize is like, one, no, that is not authentic. They knew better, but they chose not to do better. Telling the truth about it, but it allowed me to really, not in a judgmental way. I don't want to say in a judgmental way that they were wrong for doing it, but like they didn't do the best. They had a choice and they chose to do the lower vibrational thing. And but I can still forgive them anyway. And I think being honest with it, some people are a pain in the ass. Um, And you tell me the story of your dad, and I'm being quite honest. I was like, dude, this guy's kind of a pain in the ass.
He was. But like all things and all people, we have different sides to us all the time. My father was alternatively the most charming man 99% of the people that he came in contact with ever met. I mean that was true for him. He and when I say and I mean it, I know that he did the best that he could do because he didn't. Here's the luck of it for guys like you and I is we have a chance to do a do-over. My
Mm.
father never had a chance to do a do-over. That would never be in his makeup because the guy that he was would never ever
Uh,
do a do-over. Because that's the way it is, and it's like that's as that's as pragmatic as saying he's doing the best that he can do as well. Yeah, I know that some people aren't doing the best that they can do, but I have to go back to what can I do about it?
Yeah. What can you do
What can
about
I
it?
do? What's in my power? Look, I got no power over anybody else around me. I really don't have any power. You know, I've had great moments in my life as a performer and things like that, and seen people be sparked or whatever it is. But I really have no power about how people feel about, filtered through whatever they're coming from, about what I've said. I just have to put it out there, and people are going to interpret what they're going to interpret. They're going to go through, they have their experience of whatever it is. So I don't change anybody, except I do have a chance to look at what my part is in something. And it's hard, like I was talking about earlier on, to find out even what my part is, because I am naturally a defensive person about what my part is, because I'm the third brother, I'm the youngest son. I've got a lot of reasons for not taking responsibility for what goes on in my life. But the only thing that I have power over is taking responsibility for the stuff that I've done in my life. And what can I do to make it better for myself and make it better for the people around me? Because now I actually have a social consciousness, and I care about people around me, whether I know them or not. That's a weird one for a guy like me who could never get enough, who could never quite be enough. It's like I've got mine. I've got mine. I may not be a rich man, but I got so much stuff, so many things, and so many people that I get to deal with in my life that bring me joy, and I get to bring joy to. And joy was not something I was talking about 36 years ago. Joy was not part of my vernacular. I was as miserable as I could be. And anybody who's thinking about getting sober at this point, uh, it's not a good day for you for the most part. And I understand that. I get to, I get to, for the last 27 years, I've been on a panel that goes to a hospital where I go meet people who are going through the first 3 days of their recovery, and they're drugged, and they're all kinds, going through what they're going through, and I get to see them, and I get to talk with them. And ultimately, it comes down to, well, okay, so you're 36 years sober, and it's 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. What are you doing hanging around with us? Don't you have anything better to do?
Exactly.
And I, I say, well, not for lack of opportunity. I mean, there are plenty of things that I can do all the time, and have lots of places to go and lots of people to hang with. But no, there's nothing better that I could do with my time, because you guys are me. I am one drink, one drug, one snort away from being back there with them. And I know that for certain, because I've been hanging around this place. It takes very little for us to take it all back and
Yes.
change our lives.
It does. You're right.
It takes very little.
Very little.
People talk about being in a state of relapse, and it's like, I'm telling you, you have no idea when relapse can happen. And I know people that have gone into a relapse thoughtlessly.
Yeah. I call it the brake pad. What happens is the brake pad gets so worn down, you don't realize you have no brake pad. You get on the freeway, you're like, oh, a semi in front of us. You try to stop, you can't stop.
Yeah.
That barrier. I have a question for you, because I hear this a lot. Being on TikTok has been such a trip for me,
Yeah.
because I've been exposed to a lot of different paths to sobriety. And one of the things I get a lot is that when we talk about deep things like what you shared about your father, that it's not going to work. 12 steps aren't going to work for this. AA, NA, Al-Anon, that whole modality, you're not going to be able to have if you've got a huge resentment or you won't forgive, it doesn't work. And I say, that's been the opposite experience for me. I find it worked very effectively for me. It's not the only thing in the world
God
regarding
knows.
forgiveness, but it works. I mean, that's my experience. I mean, is that your experience?
Yeah, that's my experience. But I also know that, we need outside help too. I mean, and there's so many places for us to go to it once our defenses are down. And it takes a while. I don't know how defensive you were, Damon, but I was extremely defensive coming in, and I don't know that I was even thinking straight for the first couple of years that I was sober.
Me
I
too. And
really don't.
you're right. And you know what? I loved how you said that it's a process because I think it's like an artichoke. You're
Yeah.
taking you're taking off leaves of the artichoke, and the artichoke gets so thin at the end, the leaves get so thin at the end that you're trying to kind of figure out, okay, is this, it's very clear at the beginning because it's very tough and you could see it. But then as you go, right, it sometimes becomes trickier. Sometimes being it's a resentment. It's not forgiving, but it
Well,
becomes
which I
subtle.
think is great. Which I think is great
Yeah.
because when you get there, if you're sober like you and I are, you get to go, okay, where am I with that?
Yeah.
Where am I in that? I mean, I still have aversion to looking at things and seeing what my part is in it. I guess I always will.
Mhm.
It's a defense mechanism, and I hear it in other people. I can see it in other people, all the time. But when I get down to core, what do I carry? What is my thing? And I get it. I'm the obstacle is me. And I don't mean I'm a bad guy, and that doesn't mean that I don't do great things and don't have a chance to do great things. But I have to also be able to look at stuff and say, "Oh, I didn't get that at all. I
Mhm.
didn't get that at all." And not getting it, open myself up to getting it.
Totally. And sometimes it just takes time, man. That's the other thing. Like, I think in today's culture, Megan, everybody wants everything right now. Let's
Yeah,
postmate it. Let's get it over
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And the reality is that things are going to take time. You're not going to forgive maybe all at once. It's not a one and done with forgiveness. It's going to take some time.
Oh my God, I'm telling you about a 10th step that was 35 years in the making. With
Uh-huh.
that drama coach, it was like that was, and it was okay, all right, okay. So things, okay, all right. So things happen in a way that I don't always understand, and I'm looking,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to find it. So it's like I'm growing. I'm still growing. I still get to get it.
Megan, this
Crazy.
has been so much fun. Thanks for coming
Yeah.
on and thanks for doing this
Thank
after
you.
the show. We're going to have you back for other episodes. Thanks so much.
I'd love to. Thank you very much, David. Take care.